Namaste, everyone. I welcome each one of you who are joining us live in this Youth Ki Baat e-dialogue. Today we have amidst us a very special guest who has for the past 24 years striven to create efficient communication and media strategies to strengthen United Nations outreach in South Asia and has facilitated better understanding in the region of the United Nations and its complex processes. He is none other than Mr. Rajiv Chandran. Thank you so much, sir, for accepting our invite and being here with us today.
Thank you, Sailesh. Thank you for having me.
As a national information officer for the United Nations in Bhutan and India, Mr. Chandran has created a unique branding for his office today. UNIC New Delhi is the accepted source of authentic information on the United Nations. Always approachable, honest, and frank on what he can deliver. Mr. Chandran is respected in journalistic circles for his commitment to his profession and the international organization he so enthusiastically represents. A media personal and a professional who has worked in television, radio, and the print media, Chandran is committed to catalyzing youth on universal values espoused by the United Nations. He is a spirited public speaker and travels all across the country around the globe, addressing youth on the plethora of United Nations issues, political, social, and economic. Among his very few achievements at the United Nations Information Center are his abilities to synergize new creative partnerships to promote UN causes, editing of the prestigious United Nations newsletter for 23 years, and creating a culture of transparency at the United Nations Information Center. In 2010, he was also conferred the prestigious National Award for Best Information Officer by the Journalist Federation of India. And very later in 2014, the Media Press Club bestowed on him the title of Rashtriya Media Ratan. To celebrate the 70th anniversary of the United Nations in 2015, Mr. Chandran conceptualized a very special United Nations outreach program, that is the Young at the Rate 70, that prompted the United Nations amongst youth audience in India and Bhutan. He has also conceptualized a coffee table book highlighting 70 years history of India in the United Nations. He's also been an ardent advocate for the spread of United Nations awareness amongst different groups in all the Northeast states and region of India. And he firmly believes and widely promotes the universal values of the United Nations that represents. I once again thank you, sir, for accepting our invite and being here with the youth of India today, discussing and speaking with young people of the nation. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Sailesh. I think this is wonderful. I think any youth network today is a priority for anybody who wants to share information. And I think that young people are critical partners to the future. And that's why I always, whenever I get an invitation to address a young group or a group of youth, I say yes, because I know how invaluable that dialogue is. You know, you spoke about my efforts in the 70th anniversary of the UN, and today here we are 5 years later on the verge of the 75th anniversary of the United Nations. I want to take you back in history a bit because none of you was born when the UN was formed, but just a couple of pointers. On 26 June 1945, in the city of San Francisco, following the horrors of the Second World War, the global community decided to form the United Nations and the UN Charter was signed. India was a founding member of the UN Charter and signed the Charter in San Francisco. Think of the date, 26th June 1945. India is not independent yet. That will happen in August 47. But already the global community knew that India's freedom was imminent and that in any future dialogue in the world, India would have to be a major partner. And so it was that there were two signatures affixed by India on the UN Charter, one representing the Dominion of India, which is the British Dominion of India, and the other signature representing all the princely states at that time, who also fixed their signature on the UN Charter. Very interesting history to know that right from the beginning, the world gave India the stature, even before independence, of being a world player. And India has accepted that the global vision, whether it is Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam or whatever philosophies that you attribute to, but we have a global vision. And we have participated in the past 75 years in that global vision, in that multilateral vision, very closely. We have, for example, several Indians have held key positions at the UN and have contributed their services to the United Nations cause, both in peacekeeping and at the Secretariat. And on the other side, the UN has also had a great presence here in India, holding its hands through many of the development challenges over the past 7 odd decades. And I think that in this partnership today, we have to think of what is the kind of energy towards this multilateral history that we can give to the youth of today. And that's not just what I'm saying. This year for the UN75 celebrations, one of the major events that the United Nations is promoting is a UN75 dialogue. The UN Secretary General calls it the world's largest conversation with young people. It's a survey on the UN website, takes a couple of minutes, where young people are expected to tell the United Nations what their vision for the future is. What is the world they want? What is the future they want? What is the kind of United Nations that should be architectured when the UN turns 125 years later? Can we start that process of thinking now? And with the largest number of young people, India's voice will be an important voice. Already today morning, I was checking, we are leading the numbers on the survey. We have 133,000 young people from India who have taken the survey. And in second place is Nepal with 51,000 odd people. So South Asia already is in the top places in articulating young voices in the global dialogue. And we want that to grow. We want India to have twice or thrice that number of survey takers. So each one of you who listens to me, who is in this dialogue, tell your peer, tell your groups of friends and colleagues how important it is that your voice gets registered. But what is this voice about, and why is this voice important? I think, if I think about it, in most homes in India, young voices are not heard. Our culture celebrates gray hair. Let me be honest. We are always treated casually. Our ideas are, tumhe kuch nahi pata. There is a casualness with which young voices play a part in families. Undoubtedly, the coming of the marketplace has changed that. young people, because they are now looking at prices on the net and things, decide in a household now what product is better. So in that limited window, youth are playing roles within the household economy. But in larger issues, I still think that culturally, young voices are not being heard, whether it is in society or in politics. And a lot of this happens with age being venerated. I am a great one for giving elderly people full respect. I live with my mother who's 88, and she is the head of the household. So it's not disrespect that I'm asking for, but it is that the voices of young people today come with a different energy and a different head. And we have to find space within our conservative feudal society to integrate those new voices. The UN is already doing that. But for years, we have, shared an idea that part of the official delegation from countries, all countries of the world, to the UN should have a youth delegate.
Correct.
That has not happened. So it's not just an Indian problem, it's a global problem of keeping young voices muted. So I think part of the UN effort is to unmute the youth. But the other side of the coin, if you unmute the youth, what is it that they will say? What are the values that need to be articulated? And I think that this is something that requires reskilling. Reskilling of the way young people are thinking. And I go back to a simple charter of 5 P's that I speak everywhere, and those values that remain intrinsic to us as we move on this new path of getting heard. The first P goes back to the words of the UN Charter, the founding vision of creating peace. So my first P is peace. But the concept of peace has also evolved, right? It's no more war for territory. That used to be, for a large part of the UN's history, we were still in the traditional mold of understanding conflict. But today that has moved on to a more textured understanding of preventive conflict, of preventing conflict, of pre-dialogues, of conflicts that are now in new zones, not just for land, but conflicts for oil, water, resources, for carbon credits. The new wars are all about different things. And we need new peacemakers. And we need new specialists in the youth who understand those issues. Peace today means that all people feel better protected and represented. Think about it. Those are the new issues of peace. How do we work towards that? Critical points to think. So peace is a commitment that the youth have to make, both in their personal lives and as they become voices for the community and the country. My 5 P's are not optional. My 5 P's are basic P's. The next P is the planet. We have just one planet. There is no planet B. How we treat, respect, resources, and what is our relationship to the planet is something that will decide our own future and also the future of posterity. Do we use up all our resources in the short term? Lead the good life now? What are our choices? And I think choices are critical. Let me tell you something. As young people, and we are all to blame, we go to a kiosk, we have a cold drink or a coffee, comes in a paper cup. At the last minute, and you're paying your bill, he slaps a plastic cover on it and a plastic straw. You don't even think about it. You drink it in a couple of minutes and chuck it in the dustbin. You think by putting it in the dustbin, you've done your duty. But that bit of plastic will eventually reach the ocean and continue to pollute the ocean for 400 years before it disintegrates. Today, there are more pieces of microplastics in the world's oceans than microorganisms. And we have created that over the last 50 years. All our ecosystems linked with the oceans thus become at peril. Choices. Single-use plastic hurts the planet. And I think that single-use plastic needs a revised dialogue in our society. Every home, every family is culpable. I don't think there is a single dwelling in India that does not violate single-use plastic use. We're all in this together. This disrespect for the planet in our hurry to join the marketplace is tragic. It's a huge tragedy that is unfolding in terms of climate change, in terms of, resources that have gone. So I think thinking about the planet is critical to youth leadership of the future. We need to audit ourselves critically. Energy audits, water audit. How much water are we using per day? How much of energy are we expending per day? A simple act of getting up in the morning and reaching your workplace, those 2 hours. What is our water audit per individual? What is our energy audit per individual? We need to get to the bottom of that. The planet is not going to be saved by a UN committee. The planet is going to be saved by actions that become huge movements on the ground. And it has to be youth-led. It is the innovations of young people. It is their new thinking. It is their commitment that is going to save the planet. And I think that that is an important P. The third P is people. I think we have been very casual about people. Coming from a feudal society, we come with predetermined mindsets of how we define people. The UN slogan is all human rights for all. It's an inclusive slogan. The new slogan is leaving no one behind. Let's look at each of our homes. Are we two democracies in our households? And I'm not just talking about the gender dimension, which is a huge deficit in our homes and in our society at large. But I'm also talking of the social stratification that is there in every household. There are some with access and some without access. And I think those concepts of democracy need to be revisited. Is that the future we want? Of continuing haves and have-nots? Look what COVID has taught us. Look at education. How many millions of kids don't have access? I'll give you a personal example. An NGO invited me 2 weeks ago to address a group of students from Chhattisgarh, from Jharkhand. And 40 of the students were registered with the NGO to attend my talk. During the call, only 20 of them could come because the other 20 couldn't get their mobile phones accessed within their homes for the duration of my talk because there were other priorities for the families. And during my talk, another 5 left because again, their phones were required for other things. So COVID has said that there is a new digital divide that is happening. People who have a smartphone and families who are forced to share a digital device. We are not thinking about this. How many young people are actually thinking about it? We are thinking about the next fancy device that we can buy. How can we upgrade ourselves? Not those who are left behind. Where is the empathy? You know, years ago, and I used this example in a different context, there was a rumor that spread all over the country within a few hours that Lord Ganesha was drinking milk. I use it in a different context to speak about how quickly rumors in our society can spread. But the fact is that millions of liters that day were poured on Ganesha, and each of our homes has poor people serving us who are not given a glass of milk. That is the reality. We need to hold the mirror to ourselves on what is our current state of society. And it is not that house and this house. It's every house, including mine. So we need to change those mindsets constantly with dialogue to see that all people have access to minimum resources. COVID has brought about the healthcare, in access, in full relief. And it's going to get worse when the vaccine comes. Because there will be a mara-mari as to who will get vaccinated and who won't, who can pay for it, who won't, who's insured and who's not. This inequality will grow further and will create new sources of conflict. We need to think about these things. We need to think, when we say people, what is it that we mean and who are these people that we are trying to engage? And I think that it's something that young people really need to do. The fourth P is progress, prosperity. Again, coming from the Gandhian ethic through most of the decades of the last century, we've treated prosperity as a bad word. We hide prosperity. The UN's perspective today is that unless the cake grows bigger, you will not get bigger shares or bigger pieces of the cake. So we all have to work in increasing prosperity in our nation. That can come through innovation, it can come through investment, it can come through ideation, it can come through new industries, it can come through exports, imports, whatever you want to do. But let's focus on prosperity of the country. And I think young people have a huge responsibility in seeing that, they build better and they build better and they build green. And on prosperity, let me tell you, let's not dream of a pre-COVID normal coming back. We have to create a new post-COVID normal. Young people have to do that. What is the ideas that you have? I just got a message few minutes ago that Google says that it will now have a 3-day weekend rather than a 2-day weekend for its global staff to set right mental health that they are all facing working at home. Innovation, a new challenge. How do you embrace it? What is the new solution that you can bring that can balance work and life? It's a very delicate balance. And it's being ruptured terribly by the pandemic. How can we bring those elements together? And the final P, which is, I think, the critical P, is partnerships. No single entity can achieve change, future, building green on its own. No individual, no community, no nation, no region. It requires partnerships at several levels. Today, when we talk of finance, we are talking of blended finance. Somebody puts in some money, somebody else money. So there's another source of money and a third source of money, some personal resources, and a project gets funded. We need to get new partnerships that will make things work better. As we build back better and as we build green, these partnerships are going to be more and more important. So what is my final message? When you look at the UN logo, what do you see? It's the map of the world. And it has 5 circles around it, which when it was drawn represented the 5 continents. But take the human dimension of that logo. What does it mean? With the person at the center, there are multiple relationships that link you to the world. The family, the community, the country, the region, and finally the whole world. Every action resonates through all those relationships. and finally impacts the planet. So the challenge is to change our thinking from individual selfishness to becoming global citizens, of realizing that every action has a global connection, and that change at the global level can only begin with change at the individual level. So every minute act of change that you bring about is a global action. And I think if you realize this relationship between the individual and the globe and the world, I think change making will come as a natural skill. We only need to reorient our heads, our thinking. And I think, I have great optimism about the young people of India. Energy, the thinking, the innovation that they do is unbelievable. We now need to create structures where those young people's energies can light up our future. So coming back to my beginning point, go back to the UN survey, tell it everything you want, and remain engaged with both yourself and the world. Thank you. Thanks, Alish.
Rajiv sir, with what you have said, I think it was complete delight listening to you. The kind of honesty and the frankness that you even have while sharing your thoughts is really inspiring. I think what was very crucial to what you shared was how an individual is directly connected with the global connection, and how an action of every individual resonates at a global level as well, to whatever we talk about, to whatever we do. And it is really important that we talk about individual social responsibility at this moment. And thank you so much for bringing in so many light, also helped us understand about the, I think what you have helped us understand on a very crucial aspect was very interesting to know about the significance of the UN logo as well. I mean, though we knew that, it was world map, it was the olive branches and the 5 circles, but then how you connected the individual and the global connection, I mean, brought that connection. I think that was very crucial, and I assure that it was the first time ever that I've ever heard that kind of an understanding and a significance as well. And I am completely amazed. We need to unmute youth. I mean, the kind of perspective that you have put, but you have also put a very important aspect with it, that we need to reskill young people. And when we talk about reskilling, when we talk about and then the 5 P's, it is beyond. I think those 5 P's, like the 5 countries back then, would be the 5 principles that can drive the youth of India and then the youth of world towards achieving 2030 and then beyond as well. So I think, thank you so much. I mean, there is that is that I can keep on going, which you have talked about, about leaving no one behind, about the empathy, then also about the how, sometimes rumors can create a challenge, and then it is important for young people to understand. And the UN75, where in the South Asian and then specifically India, I think the youth of India, where the young people of India are leading it in making their voices heard. I think that is very important. And thank you so much for making us believe that yes, United Nations is becoming accountable, it is becoming transparent, and it is going to engage more youth voices. It is just that we need to reskill ourselves and step up. So thank you so much, sir. Thank you so
Thanks,
much for
Alish. Thank you. Thank you.
one of your very important points that you shared about single-use plastic, and something that that is very close to our heart as well. And I think when you talked about single-use plastic, we could really understand what are the works that we have been doing. So I think I will just take a quick show a quick video of what we had done, and then go ahead with our dialogue.
Sure. I'm looking forward.
हम भारत को सिंगल यूज प्लास्टिक, हम प्लास्टिक को विदाई देने की दिशा में 2 अक्टूबर को पहला मजबूत कदम उठा सकते हैं। घर में प्लास्टिक हो, सिंगल यूज प्लास्टिक, या बाहर चौराहे पर पड़ा हो, गंदी ना, सब इकट्ठा करें। We call Plastic India. Let's become unplastic. Strong actions to unplastic the world as we're going to unplastic India. Let's unplastic world.
His name is Sailesh Singhal. He's from India. He's been championing a very important cause, which is to unplastic India.
One particular problem that we selected was climate action with Goal 13, and we started working on the unplastic movement to eliminate the single-use plastic as envisioned by a Prime Minister of India.
प्रधानमंत्री जी अनाउंस कर रहे हैं कि हमें 2022 तक सिंगल यूज प्लास्टिक को बंद करना है। तो एज अ यंग पर्सन माई सेल्फ हमें भी कुछ करना चाहिए, और अगर हम अभी नहीं करें तो कब करेंगे।
United Nations had the Youth Climate Summit for the first time, and they invited me as a green ticket.
Super.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So, we started back in 2019, and now over a period of a year and more, we have about 1 lakh young people who have pledged to incrementally reduce single-use plastic from their lives. But then we realized that it is not just about the awareness that we wanted to create. And what are the alternatives that, as you mentioned as well, about the single-use plastic? And we need to revise the thought and the consumption pattern as well. And this entire message, and it was the first time back in 2019 when I heard Amina Mohammadji's telling about leaving no one behind. And that is when we thought that India has sustainable products, and we just need to bring these marginalized communities ahead, train them, skill them, and bring the sustainable products ahead. So some of them which we have been practicing and using are this maybe the cups of the cook.
Lovely.
Yes, and then definitely the mud glasses and the kulhar, which I also had an opportunity to share it with Secretary General. And I think it is because of people like you who encourage us and provide us the platform that it becomes easier for us to share our views and our works and activism. And today about 1,000 colleges and institutions have pledged to incrementally become unplastic by 2022, 50% of the work which has already been done by these colleges and institutions. So, sir, going back to our discussion and dialogue, so, you mentioned about young people, not getting the chance to put their voices in the society or even in the political sphere. So do you think it is if young people are provided, so would it be like whether it should be controlled, or should young people be trained?
I think experience is something that one gradually gets, and one of these important things, and that I have learned is some countries offer internships with elected officials for young people. You know, you work 2 months with an MLA or an MP, and you understand the process of politics. I think we've not thought that through. You know, we jump into politics. We're not organically trained into politics. And perhaps that's something that can be dialogued. Maybe, you know, you could come up with a fellowship, you know, linking young people who probably won a competition or something like that to be an intern for 2 months with an elected official at all levels, municipal, state, national, across. Because, you know, political, we often think is only in Delhi. No. Politics starts at the panchayat level.
Right.
So putting young people with a sarpanch, putting young people with a block development officer or whatever to work with the district officer, I think it will also help create a better feel for politics, because currently many young people shun politics
Right.
as that it doesn't come into my scheme of things. We need to change that. We need to weave in the political entity along with your social and economic entity right from high school. That's a change that I would like to see. And we know the process, but we have to take those risks. Otherwise, 100 years later, we'll be exactly in this situation of not having young voices integrated into our processes. We have to start at the beginning. Let's start those internships now. If it's too difficult to do it with the MPs, let's try the MLAs. If that's too difficult, let's try the sarpanches. But let's get going. Also, I think, you know, Shailesh, one of the important things with innovation, and I want to share with you, is that there is a great India-Bharat divide in innovation. And I'll tell you what I mean. For the past 5 years, in collaboration with the Agni College of Technology in Tamil Nadu, the UN Information Center runs an innovation competition. Students from all districts of Tamil Nadu participate, and I go to judge that. The urban young people all come creating apps. Students from rural communities create simple gadgets to make rural life better. Am I making sense with what I'm saying?
Yes, that's right.
It's because they see the farms at work, the problems therein, the water problems, the energy problems, the access problems. So they want better lives for their immediate families, for their parents, for their grandparents. And so I've seen fantastic innovations. You know, there was one kid who won the contest who'd created a little shed for drying bananas because in his grandfather's farm, bananas were going waste. And so he created the solar shed in which bananas were dried, creating an amazing product like the aam papad of the north. He created a kela papad in the south. Now, I'm not saying that developments of apps are not making lives easier. Of course they are. Where would we be without all these apps that control our lives? But beyond that, also there is a frontier of innovation. And that's something we need to respect, understand, engage with, finance, and bring those voices in the mainstream. So it's a complex thing, that we are dealing with. I mean, you with your access to young people need to revise some of these equations, some of these uh, modalities to make incremental change possible. And I think that, go for it. That's all I can say. Go for it. I mean, the need is there, the resources are there. We just need to find the energy.
So,
I talk too much.
no, sir, we wish that you keep on talking. I mean, the kind of experience and the knowledge that you're sharing, I think the 24 years of your experience in the UN is just our age as well. So, you come with a lot of experiences as such. And so you're absolutely right. I think, in future, if there is any possibility that, we could help in or strengthen the fellowship or the internship that you talked about, we would be more than happy to maybe, through maybe the winners of Model United Nations, we could offer them an internship either through in the MP with the MLA or the Panchayat. And so the beauty about this institution, about the youth of India as we speak, is that we have young people in villages as well.
Yeah.
We have young people from, we were the first, institution or a community to say, when we reached out to Leh Ladakh, when it became the UT, and we hosted an event with the young people there. And we are spread across the northeast region with the tribals, with the Naxals as well, training them, skilling them up. I think, which I am a strong advocate, and as our foundation believes as well, which echoed in itself, is about these products that we talk about are not made in the urban side of it. These are made in the rural villages. These are made by the young people there. And these are the sustainable products as well, the eco-friendly products that we talk about. So it is really important to have them on board as well when we want to have an inclusive dialogue and roadmap to what we wish to do. So we would love to, yes, please.
You were just showing up this terracotta glass, but there's a philosophy behind it which is also important. A terracotta product is not made to last forever. It's supposed to crash so that the livelihood of the potter continues.
Correct.
When we've stopped thinking of these cyclical economic processes and have changed our thinking into linear processes,
right,
we have created a whole lot of problems for ourselves.
True.
Many of our traditional philosophies were cyclical philosophies. Just imagine, in Hindi, the word for yesterday and tomorrow is the same. What does it tell you? Kal is both the past and the future. That's our society. Both are important, both meet. Tells us a lot about ourselves as a people. But today we are changing those dreams into the short term.
Yes.
The bigger TV set, the farmhouse. What is it that our aspirations have become?
Correct.
So, I'm also very interested in the philosophic context in which young people are creating change. Yeah.
And so, we would also want to host you sometime, maybe in the villages of here in Naxalbari.
I would come anytime, anytime.
And show you the skilling projects that are happening here to these young people. And all of this are happening by the pocket money of young people. We are not reaching out to big finance. It is just with the pocket money of young people, maybe 1 rupee, 2 rupee, or 10 rupee, and then we
Wow.
businesses.
Yeah.
So the next thing that we come up to you, sir, would you like to share, a lot of young people on the comment section in the Facebook Live are asking us, would you like to share about UNIC as well, and how would young people can participate in the activities of UNIC in the future?
I think COVID has changed a lot of our activity chart, and we are now, there's a lot of it happening online and on social media, but we would like young people to be involved. We have an amazing UN India website that tells you about all the activities that the UN and its agencies. Remember, it's the largest, one of the largest field offices for the United Nations outside the Secretariat headquarters anywhere. The largest UNICEF, the largest WHO, and and all the other agencies. And each one has a specific mandate. But the Information Center is a free bird representing the Secretariat at the heart of this pulsating development structure. And we reach out to young people constantly. We ideate with them. And so, yes, anytime you have an idea for a young people's forum and you want the UN's participation, reach out to us through Sailesh directly. However, we are there. That's what we are there for.
Absolutely. And I think, sir, a lot of our young people who have organized a lot of Model United Nations also like to, give a sense of gratitude to you and your office for always providing the support and the logo, because that makes them more stronger and help them reach out to more people as well.
Yeah, Shailesh, I think Model UNs is one of the most important engagements that make young people global citizens. Because what it actually does is you have to let go of your Indianness and embrace the nationality of the country that you're assigned. And so you have to learn the history, the geography, the politics, the concerns of its people. And so it awakens you to a new reality, a different geography. And I think that's a very important step in that creation of that global citizen that I spoke to you about. And which is why I think Model UNs are one of the finest workshops to create that.
Very true, sir. Indeed. And I think that is one of the platforms that helps us understand and, as you said, helps us put ourselves in the other shoes of the other countries as well, and gives us a global perspective. So moving on with just, we would not be taking much of your time as well, but there are a lot of questions which are coming up for you.
Let's take the top three.
Sure, sir. So something that comes up in regards to UN75. So how do you see it? Is it just that the young people should go out on the website and register their voices in the UN75 dialogue? Or is it something else as well that young people should get out and do beyond?
I think, okay. So I think what is important is that the voices are captured in the global dialogue that happens through the website. But like I said, unless there is action, what is the point? So if Youth of India can engage with, say, from the 24th of October to the 30th of October, 24th is UN Day, and 30th of October is the day India joined the UN. So it's a beautiful week that you can organize, Shailesh, several activities that bring the UN alive on the ground here with young people. I think it's a great opportunity. So think about it and do it.
Sure, sir. And we would reach out to you for your guidance and support.
Absolutely. That's always there.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. So next, that is coming up in regards to something that is also close to our heart, and you also spoke about on the single-use plastic. So how do you see young people can take actions? Is it about just removing plastic from their daily lives, or is it something more as well that we can do?
Shailesh, I want to talk about, we are not saying plastic is bad, okay? There is a texturing here. It is single-use plastic, because plastic has improved the lives of millions of people. Let's take the simple water pot, which had incredible weight, and millions of women used 2 or 3 pots a day on their heads and on their hips and walked miles. Their burden has been reduced by replacing heavy metals, with plastic. So it is not plastic that is there, it is our approach to plastic that needs to change. And I think this texturing is very important. So single-use plastic, I think let's audit ourselves, and that'll be a change. In that week of UN Day, for example, can all your young network look at and identify what are the new single-use plastics in their households? We talk of straws, but beyond straws and poly bags, what is there? And what could be their replacements? And are those replacements really green? There are ethical issues with some of the replacements too. So can we rationalize that? And I think it'll be a great thing. And if you put out a report at the end of it, that'll be hugely valuable.
Right. So we'll take that input for events that we do in that week. So something that I would like to personally ask you. Last year we we called out this clarion call for a global unplastic day, as a day to remember and revise us that these are the actions that are being taken and how far we still need to go on. So do you think such days would be really important and crucial? I mean, at the national or at the international or the local level?
Let me tell you, Sailesh, I think action has to continue round the year.
Yes.
But I think having dedicated days propels policymakers to think deeply about an issue. Yesterday was clean air for blue skies, the first time that the UN observed that. Clean air is a right that's being violated around the world. So what are those policies that can help us all breathe better?
Right.
So the day in itself is significant because it marks a particular date in which you take appraisal of actions in the previous year. What is the cumulative of the effort? The effort is not on that day.
Right.
It's a day for cumulative audit, if you wish.
Correct.
So I think a day is important, and I think all these days that we have, whether it's Environment Day or Human Rights Day or Water Day or International Day of Women, several days associated with children, World Food Day, eradication of poverty. It's not that we eradicate poverty only on that day, but it's a moment to assess our actions and think about future directions. And I think it brings together communities and policymakers on one page on a certain date. So I think it's extremely important.
Sure. So thank you so much for supporting this call of Youth of India as well for the Global Unplastic Day. So just so you have helped us to understand from history to politics to national issues to the culture and then to also skilling up. So what would be your final message to the young people and the young viewers of India today who are watching you?
I think I go back to one of my thoughts during my conversation with you. I think let's start thinking of the post-COVID new normal. How can that be better? How can we build back better? How can we build green? And how can we leave no one behind? I mean, I think this hiatus, if you wish, that the pandemic has brought should be a re-envisioning for all of us about what we will be in the future. When we wake up, what is the world that we will wake up to? And I hope it's the world that the youth create. Thank you.
I think there's nothing to be shared or talked about after what he said, that what is the world that we wake up to? And rightly, Rajiv sir has given the battle to the young people and the youth of India today, and to the youth community around the globe. That it is we who have to create and recreate and move on. So, and I think with this entire discussion with the Youth Ki Baat with Mr. Rajiv Chandran sir that we had today, it really inspired us to bring a, it is also important to create an awareness, but at the same time, it is also about actions. And then making sure that they are sustainable. And with the founding principles, I could say that with the 5 P's of this founding principles that I think would also carry on with my life as them and practice them as well. I think that is so when we talk, and this is very engaging. And thank you so much, sir, for this clarion call as well on supporting our clarion call on the Global Unplastic Day, as we realize that single-use plastic is a cross-cutting theme affecting all the 17 goals. And it is very important that we assess what is happening behind in the 1 year, and then make sure our steps redesign and we accelerate towards the next goal. So thank you so much, sir, once again for joining in this live discussion. We are so blessed and honored to have you amongst us today. That
I enjoyed myself.
Thank you, sir. So thank you so much to all our viewers as well. Let us stay tuned, and thank you so much once again. Namaste.